So let's have a look at the current state of gender affirming care. From the New York Post, Trump ordered report that found almost no evidence to support gender affirming care for kids gets the scientific seal of approval. But first, what is gender affirming care in case you don't know? Gender affirming care refers to a range of social, psychological, behavioral, and medical interventions designed to support and affirm an individual's gender identity when it differs from the sex they were assigned at birth. The care is tailored to meet the unique needs of transgender, non-binary, and gender-diverse individuals across their lifespan and may include mental health counseling, hormone therapy, puberty blockers, voice therapy, and even gender-affirming surgeries. It is grounded in the principle that affirming a person's gender identity through social recognition, also respectful language, and appropriate medical support improves mental health, reduces gender dysphoria, and promotes overall well-being. Major medical organizations such as the World Health Organization, the American Medical Association, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, they recognize gender-affirming care as medically necessary and evidence-based. Evidence-based, really? Okay, so this is what we got first. A scientist's okay. Trump ordered report that found almost nothing to support gender-affirming care for kids. Also from Metro Weekly, Catholic hospitals have been banned from providing gender-affirming care. Well, if that's what happened, then but they said that it's medically necessary and evidence-based. If it's evidence-based, then why are Catholic hospitals banning it? Oh, maybe it's just for religious reasons. And from OPB, Kaiser to halt gender-affirming surgery for patients under 19 across the U.S., including Oregon and Washington, which is probably the gender-affirming hub of the world. At least I would assume. From Texas Tribune, Dallas pediatrician has been sued over providing hormone treatments to teenagers. She ends up surrendering her medical license because she is just going to move to Oregon and she just doesn't need a Texas license anymore. So, and I also have this. So what are the options for gender-affirming care? Gender-affirming care is a highly individualized process that encompasses a wide range of medical and non-medical options to help people align their physical, emotional, and social lives with their gender identity. The available options are guided by professional standards of care, such as those from the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, or WPATH, and the specific path is dedicated by the individual in consultation with healthcare providers and for minors and their families. Options for gender-affirming care can be broadly categorized into social, medical, and surgical interventions. This is, by the way, on Google. Social and non-medical affirmation. These are often the first steps in the affirmation process and don't require medical intervention. Things such as social transition, like adopting new names and pronouns, even hairstyles, clothing, grooming practices, so on and so forth. Legal affirmations, so you can get your name changed, you can get your gender markers on your official documents like your driver's licenses, also mental health services. You can even join support groups and voice therapy training. That's an interesting one. You could work with a speech therapist and pay them, $200, $300, $400 a session to try to modify the pitch of your voice and resonance, inflection, and communication patterns to align with one's gender identity. And also gender expression aids using breast binders or breast padding, genital tucking or packing. And you can also do various hair removal methods, either by laser or through electrolysis. And the medical interventions include puberty blockers and also hormone replacement therapy. You can also do masculinizing HRT, which is testosterone. You can also do feminizing HRT, which would be estrogen and anti-androgens. Or you could go the surgical intervention route. Gender-affirming surgeries, or GAS, are a range of procedures that alter physical appearance and function. They're typically pursued by adults and, in some quote-unquote rarer cases, by older adolescents after extensive consultation with medical and mental health professionals. And this would include chest and top surgery, which would be masculinizing chest surgery to get a mastectomy with chest contouring to create a masculine chest appearance. Or you can get feminizing breast augmentation, which would be using implants. Bottom surgery, that is the procedure to reconstruct your genitalia. Feminizing, which would be a vaginoplasty, a vulvoplasty, a clitoroplasty, or a labiaplasty. Or you can also do the masculinizing route, which would be the phalloplasty or mediodioplasty, I can't pronounce these words, construction of a penis with scrotoplasty, the creation of a scrotum, which may include urethral lengthening for standing urination. Or you can do other surgeries like facial feminization or masculinization surgery or voice surgery or accessory surgeries like a hysterectomy, an oophorectomy, or an orchiectomy, vaginectomy, etc. And individuals can choose any combination of these options, or you could just do none at all based on their personal goals and needs. Comprehensive care often involves coordination across multiple specialties, including primary care, endocrinology, mental health, and surgery. So then I decided to ask, what are the options available for gender-affirming care for minors? Well, since I live in the state of Florida, it went straight to my state. Obviously, it's banned in the state of Florida. If you didn't know, it's banned in the state of Florida. So what are available options for gender-affirming care for minors in liberal states? Well, in states with protective, affirmation, or sanctuary laws for gender-affirming care, such as California, Colorado, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, minors typically have access to a full range of gender-affirming care in coordinates with professional medical guidelines. These options are generally available with informed consent of parents, so on and so forth. Available options for minors in quote-unquote liberal states. You can do social and non-medical affirmation, which we already went over, medical interventions, which of course we went over already, puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and even minors can even get surgical interventions, which include chest and top surgery or a bottom surgery, generally reserved for adults 18 and older. But notice how they throw in the word generally. Generally doesn't mean 100%. Of course it doesn't. Key considerations: parental consent, professional guidelines, and sanctuary laws. Many of these states have also enacted shield laws designed to protect patients and providers from legal actions originating in states with bans. Meaning that if you're a parent and you want your child to get any kind of bottom surgery or chest top surgery, you could go to these sanctuary places where they've got shield laws to protect you from any kind of legal action that would be designed to, for lack of a better word, save your child. So anyway, let's go to the first article. Scientists, Trump ordered report that found almost nothing to support gender-affirming care for kids. President Trump ordered report on the scientific basis for providing gender-affirming care to kids, which found almost no medical evidence to support hormone therapy and other treatments for minors who identify as transgender, was published in its final version Wednesday after passing scientific peer review. The report was reviewed by 10 different experts and research groups, and none identified major faults in the findings that U.S. doctors should pause giving common gender dysphoria treatments until more is known about the long-term effects on patients, the lead author told the Post. Quote, they were given the chance to show mistakes, show errors, and they were not able to identify any, said Dr. Lior Saper, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute and one of the project researchers. They had some minor comments here and there, but nothing that gets to the main findings about evidence and ethics, he said. And that includes the former president of the Endocrine Society, the very organization that has been one of the chief proponents of these interventions, Saper added. The report was first released in May after Trump issued Executive Order 14187 after taking office. The order claimed that U.S. doctors were maiming teens with gender-affirming treatment that must end, and ordered the Department of Health and Human Services to compile an assessment of the standards of care of minors who identify as transgender. The subsequent report found that many of the studies that proponents and of gender-affirming care used to back their treatments were of very low quality, and that little is really known about the long-term psychological and quality of life effects of treatment, along with how often patients regret undertaking them. The report also noted that the UK has banned the use of puberty blockers and other treatments for minors altogether. Completely banned in the entire country of the UK. Or a grouping of countries, I guess you could say. Instead, the report said doctors should focus on psychotherapy until more is known about the effects of gender-affirming care treatments for children. The report was widely denounced by trans advocates when it was released in May. Yeah, go figure. With many complaining that the authors' names have been withheld and that it was biased by the Trump administration's open hostility toward the trans community. No, I think that's actually a common practice that they withhold the names of the doctors for that exact reason, so they don't get politically attacked. And, that way that they don't form biases on one way or the other. Pretty sure it's quite common for these review studies and these reports that come out, if it's a grouping of different institutions or physicians, that they typically withhold the names for this exact reason, so they don't end up getting attacked. But Saper noted that the report's 9 authors and their research process were completely independent of HHS, and that most are Democrats. Well, go figure. Including Saper, they were Dr. Alex Byrne, a philosophy and linguistics professor at MIT, also Evgenia Abruzze, a healthcare researcher at Society for Evidence-Based Gender Medicine, also Dr. Far Kurlan, a professor at the Duke University School of Medicine, and Dr. Modi Gorin, who teaches philosophy at Colorado State University. There you go. The others were Dr. Christopher Kaliebe, a psychiatrist who teaches at the University of Southern Florida, Morsani College of Medicine, also Dr. Michael Laidlaw, a private practicing endocrinologist, Dr. Kathleen McDevitt, a psychiatrist teaching at the Baylor College of Medicine, and Dr. Juan Zhang, a researcher at the healthcare policy group Evidence Bridge. Quote, "We are very politically and ideologically a diverse group," he said. "Most of the authors are liberal Democrats. They wouldn't vote for Trump if he forced them to. This is a bipartisan initiative. Let kids be kids." He added that keeping names anonymous was also standard practice in peer review processes so that responses are not colored by preconceived notions of authors. They said it way better than I did. And when the report was submitted to 3 organizations that have been critical so they could join the peer review process, only one responded, which was the American Psychiatric Association, which did not substantively criticize the evidence analysis. I wonder why not. 7 other experts from across the medical field participated in the peer review too, and also found no fundamental problems. They included Dr. Richard Santon, a University of Virginia professor emeritus of endocrinology and metabolism, who used to be president of the Endocrine Society. Also, Santon called the HHS review scientifically sound. It was scientifically sound. Other readers were Dr. Johann Bester, an associate dean at St. Louis University School of Medicine, who called the report main findings correct. Also, Carlene Gribble, a professor at the School of Nursing and Midwifery, and Dr. Lane Strathern, a professor of pediatrics, neuroscience, and other fields at the University of Iowa, who called the report a valuable and much-needed contribution to this important field of practice. And none of their critiques matched the outcry from some quarters that the report faced when it was first released in May. Quote, "They can condemn the report all they want, but they were not able to identify a single mistake, not one," Saper added, or he said. Exactly what the Trump administration will do with the report remains to be seen, but Saper says he hopes that the medical community will take a step back from the culture war debate over gender-affirming care and look at the science. Quote, "Let's reassess. At minimum, let's allow for open debate. Let's listen to dissenting perspectives. Let's do rigorous analyses," he said. Follow the science, not the ideology. That's not so much to ask. All right, so this is from Metro Weekly. Catholic hospitals banned from providing gender-affirming care. Most Catholic hospitals already refuse gender-affirming care, but new guidance from U.S. bishops now straight out forbids it. U.S. Catholic bishops have voted to bar Catholic hospitals from providing transgender patients with gender-affirming care, including hormones and surgical procedures. The vote, which was taken last week during the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops Plenary Assembly in Baltimore, updates the ethical and religious directives for Catholic healthcare services, the church rulebook governing medical procedures it deems immoral. The directives spell out how Catholic-affiliated hospitals and staff should respond to medical situations that may clash with personal religious beliefs or church teaching on issues like end-of-life care, contraception, abortion, or gender identity. Most Catholic institutions already avoided gender-affirming treatments, but until now, there were no formal policy explicitly barring them. The update makes that prohibition official, folding in 2023 guidelines urging Catholic hospitals to avoid gender-affirming care, whether surgical or chemical, that supports a gender transition. More than 1 in 7 U.S. patients receive care at Catholic hospitals, according to the Catholic Health Association, yet many of these hospitals don't clearly disclose their religious affiliation. In rural areas where a Catholic facility may be the only option, patients, including non-Catholics, can find their care restricted by church teaching. on transgender identity, which the church views as conflicting with its teachings on binary sex and immutable biological identity. Some bishops pushed for an even firmer stance against what they call gender ideology, according to The Hill. Well, it is. Under the updated directives, Catholic hospitals must not provide or permit medical interventions, whether surgical, hormonal, or genetic, that aim not to restore, but rather to alter the fundamental order of the human body in its form or function, including procedures that aim to transform sexual characteristics into those of the opposite sex, or to nullify sexual characteristics. So the rest of the article will be linked below. This one from OPB, Kaiser to halt gender-affirming surgery for patients under 19 across the U.S., including Oregon and Washington. That's Kaiser Permanente. They will no longer provide surgical treatments for gender dysphoria at its hospitals and surgical centers if you're under the age of 19. The pause on some procedures is effective August 29th. Oh, by the way, the article, it was written back on July 24th, but it's been updated August 4th, so it's a couple of months. This is the oldest article I believe I have. So the decision made at Kaiser's Oakland headquarters applies to Kaiser facilities across the country, including those in Oregon and in Washington. In a statement, Kaiser officials cited the federal government's campaign against gender-affirming care for minors, including actions agencies have taken to restrict funding for it and subpoenas the U.S. Department of Justice issued earlier this month to doctors and clinics providing gender-affirming care to transgender youth as part of a federal investigation. Following the decision, Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield said he is actively working with providers to ensure they understand their rights under state law. Quote, "These are deeply personal medical decisions that should be made between providers and their patients, informed by medical science and research, not dictated by shifting federal politics or threats to funding," he said in a provided statement. But the state law requires commercial health insurers to cover all treatments for gender dysphoria that are deemed medically necessary and to ensure that treatments are accessible to all their members without unreasonable delay or out-of-pocket costs. So this one from the Texas Tribune, Dallas pediatrician was sued over providing hormone treatments to teens, and she ends up surrendering her medical license. This is October 24th of this year. And a Dallas pediatrician surrendered her license a year after becoming the first target of a law that banned providing gender transitioning hormones to minors. Last October, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a lawsuit against adolescent medicine physician Mary Lau for prescribing testosterone to at least 21 patients. Her license was canceled by her request early this month, according to the Texas Medical Board. In a statement to the Texas Tribune, Lau maintained her innocence. Quote, "Dr. Lau decided to move her medical practice to Oregon and saw no reason to continue to maintain her Texas license," according to a statement provided by her attorney, Craig Smizer. Dr. Lau continues to deny the Texas Attorney General's politically and ideologically driven allegations. Well, it sounds like she's running from accountability, but that might end up catching up to her in the future because those 21 people, I bet some of them are going to end up suing her. The case was the first brought under Senate Bill 14, a 2023 law that prohibits physicians and healthcare providers from prescribing hormones to minors to transition their biological sex. The suit accused Lau of violating the law by authorizing the use of testosterone by at least 21 patients between the ages of 14 and 17 to transition their biological gender or affirm their gender identity. Lau surrendering her license was a major victory for our state, Paxton said in a Friday news release. I don't think it might be a major victory for the state, but it's not really a major victory for the nation or for against this ideology, because all she's going to try to do is just move up to Oregon and continue doing that. But she ain't going to be able to do it at Kaiser, at least. So doctors who permanently hurt kids by giving them experimental drugs are nothing more than disturbed left-wing activists who have no business being in the medical field, Paxton said in the statement. "We will not relent in holding anyone who tries to transition kids accountable." And calling her a scofflaw and a radical gender activist, Paxton last year also accused Lau of falsifying medical records, prescriptions, and billing records by inserting a puberty blocker device into a 15-year-old and billing the patient's insurance for an endocrine disorder instead of the patient's gender dysphoria. That sounds like something she could be convicted and sentenced to prison over. Paxton had asked Lau for $1 million, which includes civil penalties and other costs. Shortly after filing the suit against Lau, Paxton sued SB 14 to bring similar claims against two other doctors, El Paso endocrinologist Hector Granados and Brett Cooper, a Dallas pediatrician. In September, the state quietly dropped its suit against Granados almost a year after bringing charges against him finding that the doctor had stopped providing gender-affirming care to minors before the law took effect. Last week, Cooper's attorneys told the court that Paxton had issued misleading information that maligns Cooper's character and intends to poison the Collin County jury pool. So anyway, it goes on from there. It's quite an extensive article, but that will also be linked below. So that's basically the latest. And the original New York Post article, it was posted about 6 hours ago from the New York Post. And I guess that's kind of where we stand at currently. Just let kids be kids. Thanks a lot for watching. See you later.